That's the symbol, huh?
Keep rolling.
So as I was saying, all of the multicultural experiences that I've had, especially in regards to ancient cultures and the traditions of ancient, I call them modern ancient, contemporary ancient because they're still alive. People tend to put them in books and call them dead, but they really are alive and still going, are a big part of the background of information that I use to create the images that I've produced. Another aspect that I wanted to mention is dreams. I started keeping a dream book catalog when I was about 15, just when I moved away from home, and began what's been about a 15-year study into my own dreams and working on dream imagery to solve problems and to heal myself as a person. And I find that I've used a lot of dream ways in creating my work. When I come to a piece of artwork, I don't plan it beforehand, I don't sketch it out, I don't decide on details anywhere before or about what I'm working on. I simply go to the piece with a general understanding, if you will, a flow of energy, and allow the piece to flow out. And don't make any kinds of judgments on it, or I don't make any pre-cognitive decisions about the piece before I complete it. On the contrary, I try to allow pieces to flow from me, and when they appear complete and speak back to me that they are complete, then I let them alone. And in that way, I find that I can really produce pieces that are significant to me in a sincere way, rather than producing pieces to satisfy a person or a group of people or a certain movement or a certain aspect of art. I can produce works that have something to do with the internal me, the internal Linda Vallejo, and what's coming from my heart, from the energies above, right, coming through and speaking through me, and trying to be a sincere conduit of those good energies. So a lot of my work, I don't really understand a lot of times either. Like the piece will come out and I'll look at it and I'll go, wow, what is this? Hey, that's kind of interesting. Like I don't say, gee, that's bad, this is a bad piece, this is a good piece, this is a mediocre piece. I just go, well, they're just pieces along the road, here we go, 2 more decades to go, you know, and let's just see what comes out of this work. That's how the sculptural work began. Since I have my MFA in printmaking, I was doing a whole series of flat works. And one day, I did them like batches of cookies because it's almost blind. I would monotype pieces of paper, and when you monotype, you don't know what you're doing. You're just painting on a slab and putting the paper down, lifting it up and taking a look at it. It's as new to you as it is to everybody else. And I was doing pyramids at the time, pyramid imagery, because of my involvement with Egyptology before, and then my involvement with Mexico. I went there on my honeymoon, and that was my first experience with Mexico when I was 25 years old. And I was just drawn to it totally, just like everything else, all the ancient modern cultures, you know, alive and yet older than the hills, right? And I ended up with a series of flat works for my grad show that I really liked, and a whole pile of paper on the floor that was beautifully colored with beautiful lines on it and all kinds of pyramid objects on it. That was a really beautiful pattern, but didn't make much sense in terms of hanging them up on the wall. They just weren't aesthetically perfect. So I said, well, I can't throw these pieces of paper away. This is crazy. Go back to dream concept, right? Let's take these pieces of paper into a dream and see what they become, rather than saying they're no good and throwing them out the door. And so I began picking up the pieces of paper and folding them into pyramids. It was almost like a joke. Pyramids made out of pyramid paper, kind of a little joke on myself. And I began folding pyramids in geometric shapes, which really goes back to all of those cultural aspects I was talking about before, the escritos on the wall, the specifically structured buildings for, as ceremonial sites or religious sites from all the different cultures, the ways that pyramids fit together to produce larger geometric objects. Of course, they started playing on each other, and I started attaching one pyramid to another and making them float out from the wall or whatever came to me. A lot of times when I get an idea, I don't say, well, I need to get a better idea. I just go, okay, that's the idea, and I just go for it. I'll glue it down immediately. As soon as it hits me, I'll just glue it down. And one of the things I started out with a long time ago was problem solving. It's kind of like the squiggle on Popeye. Remember the kid used to send in a squiggle and he'd put it down and try to figure out a drawing for it? Do you remember that? And so I'd create a squiggle for myself and go, wow, how do I solve this problem? It's very much like solving problems in your life. You get this life problem, and you go, well, how am I going to solve this human situation with this person, or this career situation that I need to figure out, or this spiritual situation that I need to understand? And it's all just a matter of problem solving. And I think that an artist, through their work, can also learn a lot about problem solving in their own life. Just by being open and non-judgmental about their work, they can be open and non-judgmental towards their life and towards others, and spend more time growing rather than criticizing. So I'd say, the philosophy and the religion, the ancient modern cultures, my multicultural experience and dreams have been like the foundation of all my work. So now on to the new way. So here I have, I've traveled a lot, experienced just about every culture in the whole world except for my own. Ow, that's what I said, ouch. So when I got into LA, I was lucky enough, fortunate enough, guided to find a job with self-help graphics in Los Angeles when I was in my second year of grad school. And of course, Sister Karen and Sister Beth and Mary Yanes and Michael Amezcua. Sarah Pineda Rico was also there. Virginia Torres was there. John Valadez came through the doors. Richard Duardo came through the doors. A multitude of artists, all different types and kinds, came through the doors. And I suddenly found myself ignorant of my own people, my own blood. I didn't know anything. Didn't know anything about the history of Mexico. I didn't know anything about the history of Chicanismo in the state of California. I didn't know anything about the barrio. I didn't know anything about vatos or veteranos. I didn't know much of anything about myself. And I think that was one of the reasons why I became an artist, was because I wasn't really sure who I was or where I fit. And being an artist allows you to search for yourself, really search for yourself. Once you finish that, then you get to do the work outside of yourself, right? And that's how come I say we're like a little embryo. We begin developing ourselves in our own bodies, in our own beings, in our own spirits. And finally we become adults and we move out and begin doing work for others and helping other people. So anyone who really wants to do this healing thing that I've been talking about on a multicultural level has got to be a pretty sound, strong person. And in order to be able to do that, you have to know yourself through and through. And thank God, through self-help graphics, I became involved with the Chicano movement. And it was glorious. It was just great for me. It handed me the gift I'd always waited for. When I studied Impressionism, you know how you read about the Impressionists and how they had this club, right, all over Europe. And they'd write letters to each other, and they'd go visit each other, and they'd paint together, and they'd take holidays together and trade problems and the whole routine. I always thought, my God, if I could only find a brotherhood, a sisterhood like that to be a part of. That's what I always wanted. All the time I was in school, I looked for this, waiting to find this group of artists that I could be a part of that would have a common goal, a common series of needs, a common cultura, and a common message. And when I came back to Islos, it was right there waiting for me. And I couldn't believe it. So of course I just dove in head first, right? And started working at self-help graphics. And once again, back to the whole cycle of growth, I started teaching children. Okay? Not yet really prepared to teach adults or to speak for Chicanismo, as I'm not ready to speak for Chicanismo. You notice I speak mostly about myself because I'm still growing. The veteranos and the people who've been around for 20 and 25 years can talk a lot more about what's really come down than I can. But I started doing little bits of research on Mexico and on, hierbas and on, how to make a piñata and what, Xochipilli means and who Quetzalcoatl was and, all of what Dia de los Muertos was, which is, one of the really largest and most beautiful gifts that Self-Help Graphics has given to the community, besides the ongoing support for artistas that still exists there today. Fabulous studio of Chicano artists, beautiful center. And the blood and guts of Sister Karen and Sister Beth over all these years, continuing support for all these artistas. And little by little, I became more and more and more involved and more drawn to the Dia de los Muertos as a ceremonial cultural event that began to head me out in that direction, understanding more about Chicano festivals and ceremonias, the spiritual side of being Chicanismo, of the being Chicanismo. So that all of my background and everything, which at first seemed almost worthless when I got into the Chicano community, has really come about and still sits at the foundation. And there's a lot of ceremonias up and down the state of California, which I have been blessed to see and on occasion to participate in. And the RCAF, the Royal Chicano Air Force in Sacramento, has a great, beautiful Fiesta de Colores, a spring festival every year. And there's the Fiesta de Maíz that takes place in many different parts all over the state. And if you go to these ceremonias, you'll find that there's artists everywhere. Everywhere you go in the crowd and you talk to people, and oh, this one's a sculptor, and this one's a painter, and this one's a photographer, and this one's an actor, and this one's a vocalist, and this one's a writer, and this one's a producer. Artists are like drawn to these centers of the blood, what I'll call sangre for the artista. Where do the artistas get their inspiration? Where do you find inspiration? And for me, as a Chicana, which I say now in the ceremonias, I've really found it. The Dia de los Muertos continues. We just finished having a really beautiful Fiesta de Maíz here in Los Angeles, one of the first in 4 years, and there was many people there, many artistas giving ofrendas of their artwork. Murals hanging, people playing flutes, congueros, guitarristas, danzantes, everyone, music, song, poetry, dance, and lots of children. That's one thing I think that sort of tied it through too, is that, of course, you start out with the small seeds. Fiesta Colores, the beginning of the year, is for the little itty bitty seeds, the unborn and the very small children, the in the armed infants. And as the year goes on, you travel through the youth, and then you travel through the mature at the harvest time, and then you travel through the Dia de los Muertos, which is for all the elders and the antepasados, the ones who came before us. So you see this ongoing cyclical cycle that continues through the year and continues through each one of our lives and through each one of our works, through all of our lives. So I can look at myself and say, I'm an infant, you know. I'm a young adult, is what I am. I'm past infancy, but I am a young adult. And when you begin to look at your life in that way, then you begin to see the train, the strand of time that you have to work with in terms of the image that you want to produce. And all that healing, all those healing things, and all that pure color, and all the geometrics, and all the numbers through music, and the piramides, all come back to the ceremonias as the sangre of the people. So not only have I found that community that I was talking about with David Poteo and the streetscapers and hanging out with those guys and talking about what it is and the hard work that it is, or knowing Willie head on and seeing how he deals with the city and how he puts his music out there to speak to the Chicano young people about what it is to be barrio and what it is to be 20th century United States culture Chicano, or going up to Sacramento and talking to Jose Montoya and getting totally flipped out by his incredible imagery of the Chicano people. Talk about a veterano, right? Talk about an understanding of what the Historia de California is. And you begin to really appreciate the Chicano movement and the sangre that really sits underneath it and the foundation that really happens underneath it. I think a lot of my enthusiasm for the Chicano people is because it's new to me. You know, it's not even 10 years old to me. And for me, it's like I'm 10 years old. It's like a box of beautiful joy and color. So I try to let it release through me, or let it flow through me, not put any strictures on it, the cycle of the Chicano lifestyle, from all of our relationships with our tatas and our abuelas, how close we are to our families, how much we love our children, how important grandmother's birthday is, and how everyone comes together, and the circle of children, young adults, pregnant women, fathers and mothers and tatas, all of that whole circle you see yourself in it. You see your whole life in an instant, right there. Just in an instant, from the moment you were born, before you were born, all the way to the time when you grow old. I've learned a lot about watching this cycle, and I'm really grateful to the ceremonias that I've been a part of. I'm a member of a danzante troupe called the Flores de Aztlán in Los Angeles, and my maestra's name is Josefina Gallardo. And of course I give special thanks to her because she's really aided me in becoming Chicana and not losing the things that I learned all around the world with many other peoples of colors and races and creeds. There's Josefina Gallardo, Ana Luisa Espinosa, who's a mental health worker who's also a danzante, Cecilia Castaneda Quintero, who's a danzante and a painter, Irma Dash, who's a mental health worker, Maria Aranga, she's also a mental health worker. So you have this really unusual mixture, like the ceremonia, just like you were talking about before, where the music and the theater and the danza and the painting and the sculpture all come together into one place, That's a ceremonia, man. That is it. And we have a really good teacher, Dr. Solis, who's here in Los Angeles. And he's a very strong maestro, and I'm really grateful to him because he really understands not only the Chicano-Mexicano reality, but also a global reality. He has a very multicultural outlook, and he's helped me a great deal in terms of being able to accept myself for all of my past, be able to come in the Chicano community and make it in my work. So like, for instance, in the new pieces that I've just completed, there's one piece called Corn Star, and if you notice, it could be an estandarte. You can pick it up and carry it, just like if you were in a ceremonia. This is the latest series of work. So as I go backwards, you'll find that you'll see it kind of drifting away as I go back speaking to the work. And the corn imagery is in there, corn star, the butterfly, the concept of eternal life and recycling life is there. The femininity, which is a very important part. I'm really glad because as a Chicana, I feel that I can be strong and firm and yet be very feminine and very much a woman and very much look forward to motherhood and womanhood. And that's something that I've really learned within the ceremonias, dancing in beautiful trajes with flowers around your head and chachayotes on your ankles and dancing beautifully and being feminine and really being a woman and yet being strong, like the women support the men. And I believe that. I strongly believe that we're paired, right? And it's really working together. So the feminine part is really an important aspect of that piece. And again, you see the mirror or the light. And I'd like to zero in on light a lot and what I can create with light. The sarape. If you've taken a look at a sarape, it's a spectrum of light. And the concept of light and pure light, pure color. Once again, it all comes through. It's all here in Chicanismo, bright and alive. And then, of course, the cruz is very, that's as old as anything I could possibly come up with. The cruz and the idea of the ojo de Dios, they're very much developed around the structure of the ojo de Dios. As a matter of fact, I have another piece over here called Sun Star. And I took a bronze ribbon and used it just like you use the yarn on an ojo de Dios and wrapped it around to create this sun symbol, this sun image, bright sun image. The centering of the cross, the illuminating of the cross. If you go above a pirámide, it's nothing but a square with a center that illuminates. I have another one called Flowered Star, which has dried plants emanating from the outsides with flowers on the inside here. And it's very feminine piece, and it's very much like woman and very feminine, and yet very strong because it's so centered. So that you have centered pieces that make you feel comfortable, pieces that make you feel at home, pieces that even if you consciously don't understand, somewhere inside of you, maybe inside your heart or inside your mind's eye, inside your dream's eye, will recognize. Like I had a piece, I was just speaking about it earlier, called The Tree of Life. And what I did was I took this dead tree, just a small dead tree, and put it into an alternative space gallery that was given to me for 10 hours. And I had to go into the gallery in 10 hours, put the whole thing up, experience it, take it down, and be out the door, okay? So I wanted to incorporate a lot of people, and I wanted to be able to involve all the people that came in the door and help them feel this good feeling. How do you make people feel a good feeling? How do you make people feel, if I can use that word, healed by art, made better by art, opened by art, made relaxed, made comfortable, eased? You know, as you get older, you start feeling more comfortable. As you get older, you feel more comfortable, you know? That's part of it too, right? So I put this tree in a pot, and I put it on an altar that I made. I took out my best red tablecloth, and I laid it out, and I bought some really nice red candles. And I brought some of the things that are special to me, mazorcas, you know, my own. I burned some sage there to clean the air in the gallery. People would notice the smell and go, that's sure sweet. What is that? And I'd go, oh, that's sage. You know, it grows all over California. You can go out here in LA and pick it if you'd like some. It's incense. Here, try some. Little by little, you're sharing these good feelings with people. And I hung a circle of grapevines, this large circle of grapevines, and I tied the Sioux image on it, which is a red, yellow, black, and white flags to it with a knot in the center. So the red and the black came here, and the white and the yellow came here into a knot, which really was a beautiful knot because it was real symmetrical. And every time someone came in the door, I said, you see the symbol on the wall? It stands for all peoples together in unity. And as soon as I said that, everybody felt relaxed, right? And I had some beach chairs out on the ground, and I had a nice blanket on the ground, and I had some sodas that I offered people when they came in the door. And pretty soon, people started putting things on the trees, and I had a hot glue gun. And so anytime someone came in the door, they'd pull something out of their pocket, they'd pull something out of their purse, whatever they had with them,